Hello, comic fans. Here's Earl Grey, or actually coffee. Today with 4 times craziness for you. Insanity, out there, weirdness, wackiness, in different flavors. Most of them from North America, 1 times from Croatia, but this is an English edition. By this Croatian artist called Igor Hofbauer. The edition was published by Conundrum International, and this is more weirdness of the artsy-fartsy surreal kind, but you know me, I like my artsy-fartsiness, and this book is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I have this for 2 or 3 years now. I guess it came out in 2018, and ever since wanted to speak about it, but it's very difficult to speak about a book that is not perfect in a sense. It has some flaws, but is so highly interesting and rewarding in several rereads, and you never can really put your finger, or it's hard to put your finger on what you like about it, and because it really uses the medium in very interesting ways. I mean, the use of the color red is just one thing, or the way these panels here are divided by the P of that guy over there. It's just very good stuff. The grays and blacks, how they are used. He has rewarded himself a bit to be the Charles Burns from Croatia, and I guess you can see why. Even though he is not as precise, as clinical and sharp as Charles Burns, but he makes up for it big time with a more painterly, moody approach, if you will. I just wanted to say that he replaces the pulp in Charles Burns with German expressionism and Soviet Russian constructivism. So some of his layouts and of the pages seem to be right there torn out from some poster book with old propaganda posters from Russia, which I do like. I mean, the stuff that they convey you can't always like, but the way they are designed, these old posters, these propaganda posters, they're really exceptional. This is an interesting story here about this Lady Olympia, one old celebrity, but she is far beyond her prime, so now she's exhibited in a zoo. And this guy with these sphincter muscles instead of orifices in his head, he's the janitor in the zoo, and he feeds this old celebrity with rats, and she feeds sometimes on her new celebrities. They're fed to her, but you have to figure it out. This is such a strange story for yourself, what's actually going on. Maybe you come up with a total different story, but that's what I read here. Yeah, Igor Hofbauer is, or was, or maybe still is, a poster artist, so he creates posters. Again, you can see this on each and every page. Wonderful book. Very interesting, moody stories. Just one story, which is just look at this panel here. As you can see, some of the characters are used in different stories, so there is a connection between this in this cycle of stories, you can say. So there is even an intro and an outro. The intro I've shown you before, and an outro that continues some of the stories, connects some of the stories in a very ambiguous manner. And as I said you can read this book several times. This is maybe the most blunt of the stories. Oh, here. There's one story about some kind of zombie apocalypse taking place in some future East European village, maybe. So, Mr. Morgen, done by Igor Hofbauer, highly recommended. The second book I want to talk about is actually an anthology called I Feel Love, published by Selfmade Hero. And this is a whacked out cover for sure, even though I don't know if this cover here does the contents real justice. Because for me the pulling factor here to buy this book was that there's Benjamin Marra in it, and along with some other artists I'm pretty interested in. Yeah, it has this concept to explore different sides of love, but in a pulpy, undergroundy, weird out way, like you will see here, and you will expect if you have read anything by Benjamin Marra, for an example. Teen Swamp Monster Love is almost a calm, timid story in terms of Benjamin Marra's works, but it's still pretty crazy, and you have to love Benjamin Marra's stories. It's about this new student who goes to college, and he does what new college students are supposed to do. He uses drugs. He tries drugs, and with some success, I would say. Like here. But then he turns, I mean, spoilers ahead, but you will see you want to see this, what I'm showing you right now. He turns into a swamp thing. No, pardon me, a man thing, because it's pretty important that this is a man thing, because Benjamin Marra, of course, puts the man thing back into man thing. Wait, here. So, while you try to get this picture here unseen, we can skip to the next story. But the second story here is called Hurt Comfort, done by one Anya Davidson, who has a deceivingly simple yet pretty intriguing Feldmarker style. I mean, I like it. It's a bit clumsy, of course, but in a good way. At least this is my opinion. The story is, I don't know, about a mother. It's a mother-daughter story. The mother has some very strange sexual fantasies, and it's very weird. I mean, I'm not so sure if I really enjoyed the story, but it has some real nice sequences here. So, oh, this one here as well. Then we have a story by Julian Henshaw, one of the two co-editors of this book here. The other is Krent. It's called I Want to Watch, about the sexual fantasies of an husband in the holidays. He wants to see his wife getting it on with another man, but it doesn't work out the way he wanted it to be my favorite over the bunch here, and arguably the least love story-ish story, but very surreal. I mean, yeah, Gilbert Hernandez came to my mind when I read this, especially with panels like these, Mr. X or something like that, about this black balloon which pops up here and there, and the strange guy who is some kind of agent. Hard to tell what's actually happening here, but somehow this is the case. You're just pulled through a very weird story again, adult content everywhere, and yeah, this really puts the goofiness back into this book here, underground book, so it's not so surprising that the same artist did the cover over here. So in a way, this is a fitting cover for this story in particular, of course. It's just nice. So, and I wonder, I see a blown up skull and say it's nice. Sometimes pretty weird as well. The Anchor by Kelsey Roten. It's a story about religious love drawn in this very appealing art style here. I mean, the bonus with anthologies is always that you get different artists with different art styles. But here it's somehow a bit more, because they explored this theme of love from different angles. And the last one here is The Burgeoning, and the most surreal, depressing story of them all. And she has these horror visions that her beloved, her newborn baby or her husband, has become a plant or is no human being at all. And this is pretty horrifying, of course, and done in a very fitting manner, or shown here in a fitting manner. Next book in line is Code Pru, out of the series Cinema Purgatorio, presented by the old Alan Moore. It's written by Garth Ennis, drawn by Raulo, Caceres, and this was recommended by the comic Reverend, a German YouTuber. And if you like my videos, you should check out his videos as well, granted you understand German, because his tastes are almost similar to mine, I feel. So he praised this book highly, and for very good reasons. I mean, you can't go too wrong with Garth Ennis, usually, and or almost always, with the exception of Crossed, maybe. But Raulo Caceres had burned me before, or rather the Avatar press, with Captain Swing. Captain Swing was a book that Caceres did together with Alan Moore, and his pretty beautiful, interesting art was drowned in thick layers of dark color. And I don't get it when you really talk, for good reasons, about Caceres' art style as a woodcut art style, and promote it that way. You don't empty your bucket with color over it. It doesn't make sense. So great that they left this here black and white. And so this art is highly enjoyable this way. Speaking of Avatar, I don't know if Avatar had managed to put out a good book like this here. This one is done by the German Dantes verlag, hardcover and all, obviously, and the whole series seems to be presented in that fashion. I think 3 or 4 books are already out. So highly recommended to get this in this way here. Avatar, of course, I don't know. Maybe there are some hardcovers out there, but I'm pretty glad that with this particular book, that I went the German way, if you will, the translated way, because some of the dialogues and the jokes, I'm not so sure if I would have got them when I've read this stuff here in English. Yeah, beautiful art here, and the story is about Prue, who becomes emergency sanitary doctor, if you this is somehow the right word, but yeah, this stuff here is almost just the overture. She has to endure her crazy co-inhabitants in her flat, but then we get a glimpse into the dark, weird worlds that we will explore in the further run of the story. Here we have a guy called John Squidpump, who loves or likes to play Monopoly with some Lovecraftian elder god over there, which is such goofy fun, and the dialogues are totally poignant. And I mean, the first couple of chapters are some of the best stuff I've read in a long time, really. In this fashion here, in this weird out, whacked out fashion. I don't want to compare it with other masterworks I've read in the last couple of months, like Monsters. So this is a totally different thing. This happens to me all the time in the last weeks or so, that I always compare apples with oranges. But this is really just a fantastic, goofy read. This one here is just a great popcorn comic, like our Prue enjoys with a big bucket of popcorn, the attempts of her friends over there to summon some ancient being with some witchcraft. And she pretends to be inhabited by some demon. But rather sooner than later, she will learn that there are some stuff beyond our comprehension. So, for an instance, she will learn that there are some creatures like suicidal vampires who go into the light and try to kill themselves by lightning, by sunlight. So she has to take care of these creatures here together with her new colleague. And unsurprisingly, we have Frankenstein, called Francis here, bullied by New York's finest. And we have mummies. This looks maybe a bit boring because of the repetitiveness, but if you can read this dialogue, this is funny as hell. So, and here we have maybe, this is the most weird out story ever in the book here, at least. There is this CEO from Wall Street possessed by some dark entity. So since he is a CEO and is not considered to be really the nicest human being, they play it a bit rough here when they want to exorcise the demon here with lots of ricinus oil. This is the same word in English, but I mean, it has this effect here. And then they catch the demon in the toilet and have to transport toilet out of this restaurant in which the possessed CEO has dined. So, and the story here, the book here, is full of these kind of crazy ideas. Highly, highly recommended. And if the other books are just a bit as good as this book here, I will be all over them. Now to the last book of the bunch here, Jimbo, Adventures in Paradise by Gary Panter. Originally it was published by Art Spiegelman's Raw, now it's republished by New York Review Comics. They have a pretty interesting roster of talent there, including Soft City by Pushwagner, Slum Wolf by Tadao Sugi, some outsider manga that I've shown before in some video, and Father and Son, which is an old, by E.O. Plauen, very old cartoonist who was chased by the Nazis back then, and a classic of German cartooning in a way. Pretty, yeah, not out there, pretty mainstream actually. Some kind of German Peanuts cartoon strips a bit. Even though not as good as the Peanuts, to be honest with you. So, back to Gary Panter, and if you have read something by Gary Panter, or you have the slightest idea of Gary Panter, you know the drill here. It's all about artistry with no borders. Like some commentator put it some days ago, it's almost the anti, or it is the anti-Chris Ware, because he don't care about anything. It's illusions of grandeur in a way, because everything that he draws stays on the paper, and there's no scrutinizing about it. He just draws the heck out of it, and with his typical ratty, energetic line work. I mean, if you like his stuff, I mean, I totally get it when you say this is just incomprehensible bullshit and it's the Emperor's new clothes. I really have to admit it that I'm old enough to know that this kind of art is just not everybody's taste. It's just mine. This doesn't make my taste worse or better than yours. Just as a disclaimer here. But maybe I'm wrong, but I just love this kind of art here. Even though it's very hard to figure out the run of the story here. Jimbo is a stand-in for Dennis the Menace, or Gary Panter himself, or his brother, or his American native ancestors in some places here. And you see how interesting, I would say, he changes the style to a more cleaner style when our guy here, walks into this building. And no wonder that his style changes over the run of the book here. This book here contains material that was done over a decade. So the story in it, you can figure out some kind of story, a continuation of a story, but it's pretty loose. And it ends... Oh, look at this page here. So really, this is art to lose your eyesight within all these details. It winds up eventually, and this is no spoiler, because, I mean, you just have to experience this story here and this art in the original. It winds up in the end with some kind of apocalyptic vision, and if there ever is maybe some kind of overview about apocalyptic visions in comics, maybe starting with The Walking Dead or something like this, I would say Gary Panter's Jimbo, and especially these pages, have to be included, just to showcase the variety of different approaches to picture the end of mankind. So this book here is actually pretty highly recommended, even though I don't know if I'm nitpicking and if you even can see it. The black here looks a bit like light black or dark gray to me, not really black, which is would be still okay, but some, or it's really nitpicking, but these pages here printed in this blue fashion here, and I believe in the original they were printed in toxic green. Some of these pages look really a bit, not these necessary, but maybe this one here. And these here are in particular. These look a bit like the printer ran out of color while printing it. So this is a bit unfortunate, because some panels, the details of some panels seem to be blurred into each other, or not as readable as they should be, because, yeah, a Gary Panter book is in a weird way always some kind of art book to me. It's either them or me, and I'm not sure which. So, hopefully you did like at least one of the different flavors or weirdness that I presented to you today. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.